I get that her job is to be a public figure, man, but
no, but it's not even about her. It's the outlet. It's like, it's
I know
the
what
same.
you're saying, but Ty was saying something different.
Yeah, but that's what I was saying. It's like that. She's not even the issue. It's the same thing with MSNBC hiring Ronna McDaniel, right? It's like, it's MSNBC here that is the problem. Like, clear. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess in this case, it's also McDaniel's fault, but like, wasn't nobody forcing MSNBC to get that bitch a job, and no one was forcing the Sun to put out all these fake pictures.
Wasn't nobody clamoring for that? Wasn't nobody sitting here like, y'all need to hire Romney, like they were under some pressure and shit. No. They did this of their own.
On their own.
Yeah.
It was fucking
ridiculous.
Crazy. But yeah, and then what the real crazy part about the Sun, though, is when they got busted for the Photoshop picture, they were like, oh, well, Kate's just been experimenting with her Photoshop hobby. Like, they blame her for the fake pictures. That was crazy. All right, so
I thought that Prince William sent it in. I thought that, like, when the AP said that the source, or unless they were talking about the Sun, but they were like, okay, the source, take this down.
Okay,
we're not
yes,
with this.
They sourced him for the quote on Kate having a Photoshop hobby, which is just bananas. But anyway, we'll get started. I'll count us in. You got to get the mic pretty close to your face, Ty. I know you're used to.
She can't lie down and.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know you're used to just like speaking into the vicinity of your laptop, but it's got to be pretty close. So go ahead and talk into it and see what it sounds like.
Okay, I got to have it close to me because I was trying to like sit up here in bed.
Yeah, like I said, imagine you're giving a blowjob to like a huge dick where you got to wrap both hands of it around it, and then like that's about how far away from you. Well, no, I know it's funny, but that's about how far away it needs to be from your face to kind of get a reasonable sound out of that thing.
Yes.
Yep.
You okay?
Okay. I am still choking on lasagna.
I'm sorry. Well, better lasagna than other things that you double fist. But yeah. So again, it's got to be angled towards your face.
I mean, no part of the dick is going to break off and get stuck in my lungs.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that is a good point. Yeah. And if that were to happen, I would say go see a doctor immediately.
Yeah.
Because that's not normal.
No.
Both of the people should go to the doctor.
Wow.
All right, I'm serious.
It's going in the podcast. I hope you know that.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey, this is D Knight.
This is Carol.
This is Ty.
You're listening to the Part of the Insurrection podcast, where you wouldn't believe it, but after what seems to be an eternity, we finally got Ty a microphone. She's coughing into it as we speak.
I put the mute.
Yeah, she finally got a microphone, and I was about to be super impressed because I thought, wow, that has really good, like, ambient sound suppression. We can't even hear her coughing directly into it.
Yeah, I think that's some of the Zoom settings.
But this has more to do with Ty's reflexes and hitting that mute button. Good job.
That might potentially be it.
I've been reflexing a lot the past few days. That's for sure.
Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Look forward to our sponsor, Sheets and Giggles.
Yeah,
Colin. What's up, brother?
I don't think this is the way that he would prefer us sell his sheets. But yes, if you're engaged in any activity that would involve having a very fast set of reflexes in order to create some physically pleasurable situations.
A gag reflex anyway. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah, well, anyway, so there's no better place to do that than on a set of sheets from Sheets and Giggles. Make sure you check out sheetsandgiggles.com and pick you up a wonderful set of sheets that you'll probably have to wash after exercising your gag reflex.
Sheets and Giggles.
I actually like that. I actually like that. That's still like that's giving like what's his name, Barry White vibes, Carol.
Well, she's like the total opposite of Barry White. Barry White is like a super, not even a baritone, but like a bass. And Carol's got this like, high.
Like the opposite of Larry. Would the opposite be like Larry Black? That's my name. Mary Black. That's the opposite of
I see what you did there. But no, you got like a high alto thing going on. Just, you're definitely not remotely close to Barry White. But anyway, of course.
It's very soothing. It's very soothing, though. It is. I like it. I love Carol's voice.
Okay. Well, yes, I agree wholeheartedly there. She's a delightful presence, vocally and otherwise. But yeah, so on to the news. I don't know how we got off on that. The saga of Ty's microphone is now complete. I can't tell you guys how many times I've tried to send her microphone, but we finally managed to get the job done. It only took this long. As you can tell, we're totally unprofessional in every single endeavor. But again, back to the news. So it was a crazy day today. Trump's pump and dump scheme, Truth Social, went public today, with Wall Street signing it a valuation at its peak of $14 billion. Surprising that given the revenue the company is making is around $3 million a year, and it is regularly losing money. So yeah,
that is insane. That is crazy. $14 billion. That is.
Yeah, it's just absolutely bananas that company is worth that amount of money, considering what. So we just had an initial public offering a few weeks ago. Was it of Reddit? And they're only worth a handful of $1 billion, even though they're making, hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue a year. Typically when these companies go public, their valuations tend to be, low multiples of their yearly revenue, maybe 3, 4, 5x at most. And this thing's making $3 million a year, and it's supposed to be worth $14 billion. This has fraud written all over it. It's got fraud written all over it.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, 2 years ago, like when it was like the merger was first announced and they were all like excited and stuff. So Digital World came under like a lot of scrutiny, and the SEC was looking into the finances and what kind of shenanigans they were going on. Because you remember, they couldn't even keep their offices open. They were like, we showed up to work and this shit was like doorknob dead. Like there was no, like the building, the furniture was carted off.
Yeah, what's real funny about that? The offices are still like that, because I put pictures up on the Twitter about how now that it's public, make sure you take a visit down to Sarasota where their offices are located, because it has all the hallmarks of a multi-billion-dollar company, like empty hallways and no employees. Yeah, it's incredible.
No employees,
but
no equipment.
Nothing like that. But yeah, like you were saying, so it's been marred by scandal and investigations to this point. It had to settle a multi-million-dollar fine because of basically the SPAC's not supposed to be communicating with the company that it intends to purchase before announcing it publicly. They were engaged in that. There was also a potential lawsuit between the initial investors who helped build the website. Trump's, I guess in this case, co-conspirators, because I'm sure this thing is entirely fraudulent. But the founders, the co-founders were suing Trump because it appeared as though he had a scheme to basically water down the amount of their shares so he would have a higher percentage of the controlling interest in the company. But I guess they worked that out somehow in court over the last couple of weeks. But yeah, this thing, and I talked about this on the Pocket Pardon I did a few days ago, where Jeffrey Yass, he's got a huge share in ByteDance, which controls TikTok, and it would be, it's just fairly convenient that he went down to meet Trump at Mar-a-Lago, as Trump has long held the stance of banning TikTok, and as soon as he hangs out with this guy, he changes his tune on that, which would be, of significant financial importance to Yass. But also Yass's company has a large share of the investment, or had a large share of the investment into the SPAC that merged with the Truth Social parent company. So he's got not a controlling interest, but he's significantly single-handedly responsible for inflating the value of these shares, which is just fucking insane. It's insane. Just
sick of this.
bananas.
Yeah.
I don't even know what we're talking about, and I'm sick of it.
That's okay, Carol.
He's
He's this mysterious billionaire who basically built his fortune off getting in early on TikTok. And he's worth
we've moved on to social networks. Different.
Yeah, it's okay. You can make sure you tune in to one of the previous episodes of Part of the Insurrection where I talked about that'll keep you thoroughly informed. But yeah, it's wild, man. Like this thing's not going to last long, I would imagine, unless foreign money keeps pouring in to keep the share price afloat. Like, I'm sure it's going to nosedive soon, and Trump will try and get his money out. And if he can't, this thing won't result in a large payoff.
Let's take a quick break.
I think it would be useful at least to experiment, and I know some universities have started to experiment with this, but experiment with having, a required course maybe for all students entering the university. They used to have a course at my university, which was like here's how to go to college class, here's how to study and things like that. They don't have that course anymore, but instead of having something like that, have a course that show students, here's the history of free speech, here's how it.
But the thing is that if Truth Social really was that deal, like when it was announced, Twitter has 200 and something million followers, then all these motherfuckers that love to go on Twitter and yell MAGA, 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 these motherfuckers aren't posting on there because they're all on Twitter, X-Chan. Like, they're not over on Truth Social. So it's like what they have, like 3 million users, 3 to 5 million users. Like, give me a fucking break. That is not
per month, supposedly. Now, who knows how authentic those users are? Like, I don't know if anyone's actually done a real audit, but again, now that this thing has gone public, it's going to face a lot of scrutiny, which again, can only assume will lead to the downfall of the stock price. And a couple of other things, like, everyone's expecting Trump to try and get a massive payout in the short term from selling off his shares. But obviously, I guess it's been reported very thoroughly. I don't know how obvious it is necessarily, but there's like this lockup clause where he can't sell any shares for 6 months from today. But
question, will they accept shares as bonds?
Yeah, so he can't sell any shares, he can't use the shares as collateral, and he can't get loans against the shares. So, but
dear.
Yeah, but so here's the potential hang up.
You might appeal.
Well, he can request that the board grant him an exception to the lockup clause. And they could hold a vote on that and give him the opportunity to sell his shares. But here's the thing, though. So that, in all likelihood, if that were to happen, the fact that he would be intending to sell a massive number of his shares would probably trigger to other investors to pull their money out, which would tank the stock price before he could move all the shares, which means it would, like his current $3 billion plus net worth bump from this would take a significant hit, and he would end up getting far less cash than what his shares are currently worth. I mean, that's just one of the hangups with this. And I mean, and I guess, like, if they did that, they would probably open themselves up to a shareholder lawsuit as well, which of course would open them, like, just the fact that they would be under investigation at that point, just not a good idea. But I mean, I suppose they'd be willing to try it if he's that desperate. Who knows?
Well, that's what happened with Elmo. Like when he was sued, and then also like he was sued by, I want to say it was the Orlando, I know it was out of Florida, but it was a police fund. And they were saying like how he was out here trying to manipulate the stock prices, and then their shares, the value of their shares, like went down, and this is their pension, you know what I'm saying? So, and wrapping that into the court case where he was trying to get that cool $50 billion check, and they were like, no, hold up, wait a minute. And he lost, and he had his little meltdown over that. But it's the same type of fuckery. It's the same type.
Yeah, it's exactly that. And a number of individuals on the Truth Social are engaged in like hyping up the stock price and getting people to try and pump their money into it. Again, it's classic pump and dump. Just, Google that and then take a look at the situation surrounding this Truth Social thing. And you'll quickly come to the conclusion that this is yet another get rich quick scheme. And it is actually not very dissimilar from this Trump phone that Trump was trying to sell back in the day, where he proclaimed it would have all these features. It was like a modern smartphone, but before smartphones really. And then didn't really do any of that shit, like some kind of video phone service. And it didn't really do any of that. And it launched with like a $34 million valuation and eventually went bankrupt after he sucked the money out of it. It's fucking crazy. Carol, what you doing?
Reading.
What are you reading?
Article I'm reading about the abortion pill case. Is that not one of our topics?
We can make it one of those topics. So you continue reading, and when you're ready to inform us of your opinions on that subject, we'll let you get right to it. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
I participate in your conversation. You say, I just like watching Ty talking to that mic. She's doing such a good job.
Yeah,
You sound so nice.
Yeah, put it in your face, Ty.
No, that's
Okay, I'm sorry. So, the New York Court of Appeals issued an order earlier this week, reducing Trump's bond requirements from over $464 million in the civil fraud case there to a mere $175 million. Also staying enforcement of the judgment against him for 10 days, giving him time to post the bond. This is the luckiest motherfucker on planet Earth. I've never seen
some serious bullshit.
It's some bullshit.
Like, for real. It is like.
And the way I heard it, because a number of people have described it, when you get the speeding ticket for $55 and it's like, it's getting closer and closer to the date. It's like, all right, it's the date. You can't just go to the court and be like, I don't have the money. Well, no, it's not. They're not going to be like, all right, well, we'll reduce the fine to $35. No, that bitch is going up to $250.
Right. Exactly. Well, we're going to give you time to pay, but it's going to cost you.
All right, that's what it is.
That's what it is. Like if I go to my rent office and say, man, I'm not going to have the rent on the first, that's okay. We're not going to start eviction proceedings until here, but then I'm racking up $50 a day in fucking late fees. Like, I'm not getting no break. Well, you know what? How much can you pay?
Yeah.
We're going to reduce your rent by $500 this month. Yeah, that's not a thing.
He's
that
the
shit
only
doesn't
dude
happen.
getting breaks like this. It's incredible. I've never seen
There's
anything like
motherfuckers
it.
sitting that can't fucking post a fucking $200 bond because they got caught with a fucking dime bag of weed.
Yeah, judges ain't out here giving these dudes no breaks. And the fact that they didn't actually post an explanation as to how they came to their conclusion is just insane to me. I mean, of course, they have that discretion. They can just do whatever they want, whatever the hell they want. They can just issue whatever order they feel like. But just that they couldn't offer any explanation, and then it happened at the last second, it's just wild to me. And the fact that he's been lying to the court constantly as well as lying to the public just makes it all the more insane that they decided to try and get this dude a break. Now, they stayed every part of Judge Engorn's ruling against Trump and the Trump organization, except for the parts where, court-appointed monitor Barbara Jones, her oversight of the Trump organization and the installation of basically a compliance officer. Those two things remain intact, which I can only assume means that even though the court gave him a break, that don't mean they trust his ass, right?
True, but I don't know. And I've seen, multiple sides of the argument, and where people are not defending it, but they're like, he still owes the judgment. That doesn't change anything.
No, they just reduced the bond and gave him a stay on the other things, like not being able to be officers of any company registered in New York and not being able to loan will engage in business with any financial institutions registered in New York, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, it's just wild, man. Like this, I've never seen anybody like just, if not be lucky, just get so many opportunities where he gets the benefit of the doubt. It's insane. I just like for a dude who tried to kill as many Americans as possible with COVID, then tried to overthrow the government, and then stole a bunch of classified documents on his way out of office, and also tried to hang his vice president. Like, I ain't never
also
seen.
tried to sell those documents. Don't forget.
Like, we don't have conclusive proof that he tried to sell them, but he did share information that was contained within. But yeah, that dude, that he continues to get the benefit of the doubt in every way in the legal system is fucking insane. It's just bananas, man. I don't understand. It just, again, he spent all weekend lying in multiple ways, saying that he both had the money, but also that it would be impossible to come up with the bond. It's fucking crazy. And he's also been saying, since the judge the appeals court handed down this ruling, that the bond he would be he would be using cash to secure the bond. And I don't know what that's about, whether or not he actually has the cash, but he's also been saying, like, he's been implying that because he's going to put up cash for the bond, that he won't be able to spend on the 2024 election. I don't know how true that is, but I assume that that's like a hint as to his campaign strategy. Oh, I had to spend all my money on this bond in New York. Will you MAGA donors, like, give me all your money?
Sorry, I forgot for a second that wasn't like a slur and they like being called that. Like imagining him like, oh, he would never call them that. Oh, right. Yeah, that's their thing. That's their thing.
But the thing is, I was reading somewhere where they were saying that Trump very well may have that cash, but he is so like hawked up to his eyeballs that money is security. So he's like, he can't spend it because that is him having that liquidity is contingent on his being lent money from the Deutsche Banks and from the other entities that have, provided him with financing for things. So if he were to dip into that, which is probably why, if he had all this money, then why is he spending tens of millions out of his PAC to pay his legal fees, etc.? But yeah.
You're right. To secure a lot of these loans, these massive loans for these real estate properties, I'm sure part of the loan agreement is that you have to have X amount of dollars in the bank. And then again, like, even maybe if he does have a significant amount of money more above and beyond that threshold, he did just get $100 million bond secured by Chubb, and we don't know what he used as collateral. And if he used the cash he has in his bank account for collateral,
Ivana knows. Ivana knows. She's no longer with us.
But yeah, if he used the cash from his bank accounts to secure the bond in the E. Jean Carroll case, well, he can't spend that either. Like, so who knows where he's going to come up with the bond? We don't even know. Like, even though the bond's been reduced by fucking 70%, we still don't know if he can come up with 175 million.
If he could have, he would have. Today was a weekday. Banks were open. So if he had that money, he would have been down there. I bet he would have been down there with that cashier's check, them gold bars, whatever. Maybe he should have asked Bob Melendez because he got some gold bars.
Well, since he likes to wait to the last minute. Like, here's the thing, right? So he's been knowing for months now, before this trial even was underway, that he could potentially have to come up with hundreds of millions of dollars. And he ain't started trying to line up some fucking money then. He waited to the last fucking second. And I was saying to get this again on another pocket part. Like, it is like that he knew that he would have to come up with this money, and it was such a massive endeavor that he didn't get started months ago and waited till like the week the money was due. That is like God tier level procrastination.
Look, I got a bill. It's for my electric company. They said on the 25th, you owe us $140. It's like, okay, I knew. They let me know. I knew it was coming. Okay. Now, I just paid it last night, and I didn't pay the whole thing.
In case you're listening to this, we're recording it on the 25th. So last night was like literally 24 hours before.
And I didn't pay the whole thing. I gave him like 60%.
Actually, I'm sorry. Today is I can't look. I've been memory holders. Today is the 26th. It's been that kind of week. She literally paid it on the day of.
It bees like that sometimes. But yeah, but so you know, he knew it was coming, but at the same time, he lives for the drama. He lives for the drama.
Are you saying like not knowing whether or not he can come up with the money and waiting until the last possible second, it's a fucking rush for him? Is that what you're saying?
And but being the martyr. So then he loves to play this game. And I think that he wants to, them reducing that bond amount, it played right into his hands because he is a narcissist and he wants to know how much leeway he can get. He pushes this all the time. And he's that person. And I, it's like, you know what? I got that 140, but you ain't going to get it.
Right. Yeah.
I'm gonna give you 80. I'm gonna give you 80, and we're gonna see where we are right now. Like, that's the kind of game that he wants to play. Even if he had it liquid that he didn't owe anybody, I still don't think he would have done it because he loves to see what he can get people to cave into, to give into. That's part of the game for him. It's all a game. He plays with people that feeds into his ego of like, oh yeah, I got them to reduce this 300 something million dollars. And in that end, he was fucking right. And they played right into it. They played right into it. Had they not done that, but since they did, now he's like, all righty, I see what I'm working with here. So now
this is his classic shell game. Run up the bill, cry broke, get them, and then escape for pennies on the dollars. This is his classic game, and he ran a game on the appeals court, and they fell for it. Yep. And clearly they should have just held him fucking accountable. They should have told the line and told him if he don't come up with the money, he gonna lose his shit. And clearly, exactly, they've never read Tristan Snell's book. He's one of the prosecutors who held Trump responsible for the
Trump University.
Yeah, the Trump University fraudulent fiasco. And it's basically, his book is basically about how you have to use every available tactic to clamp off Trump, close off all his, because he's like a fucking cockroach. If you don't cut off every escape route, he's going to find a way to wiggle out and run into a corner and he'll survive. So you got to cut off all the exits, and then you got to spray him down with the bug spray, and you got to stomp him out, and you got to sweep him up and throw him out.
You got to turn on the lights. You got to spray him. You got to watch his little ass running around, even though he's all wet and shit and soaked, but he's still trying, but he can't go anywhere.
Yep.
And he's seen. That's it.
Yes, Tristan Snell's book is the legal version of that entire process. So make sure you go check that out. It's extremely informative and entertaining to some degree. So Taking Down Trump, make sure you pick up a copy of that. It's really good. So after a short delay due to document production at the last second from the Southern District of New York, their DOJ office there, Judge Merchan finally sets Trump in his election interference hush money trial for April 15th, about 3 weeks from today, and eventually ended up issuing a gag order against Trump in that case.
I'm sure he'll abide by that, as he always does.
Well,
all of the
nothing. He's nothing if not a law-abiding citizen. Carol.
He's just gagging on anything.
Law and order.
Left and right.
Is this an allusion to our reflex conversation from earlier?
Illusions, Dina.
But no, so this case was actually set to begin yesterday, or at least jury selection was, and then it ended up having a potential mishap by the fact that DOJ issued a massive tranche of documents at the last minute and presumably offering Trump the opportunity to request a delay in this trial. But the judge, after further investigation, found that it was largely the result of Trump's ineptitude, or I guess you could say it was purposeful that he waited to the last minute to try and subpoena DOJ for additional information, like weeks before, a month or two before the trial began. And then after the document production claimed that it was somehow DOJ's fault. I know a lot of you guys were probably up in arms, like, oh, yet another delay. They're rigging it for Trump, and it really turns out it was Trump's fault. Like the DOJ was to blame for this. They apparently didn't come into the possession of these documents until a few months ago, not long before Trump sent the subpoena. And obviously, Bragg's office wasn't responsible for this. They had asked for any responsive documents DOJ had a year ago, and DOJ gave them everything they had. And also, these documents largely irrelevant to the case. So, like, everyone who was like pitching a fit about the potential delay, like it only ended up being a couple weeks. We're back on track. Like, it's okay to like take a second when these things happen and assess the potential fallout, but not get like so up in arms and ready to blame the prosecutors or saying that things are rigged. Like it turns out it's largely Trump's fault, and that the judge wasn't going for this shit, and the trial is on, and we're likely going to end with Trump being a convicted felon in the near future, long before he ever even gets to the election. And that goes to the people who were like poo-pooing Alvin Bragg bringing this case in the first place, saying, oh, that's not even that serious. Why did he charge Trump? And now, like, all of Trump's other criminal trials are up in the air. We don't know if they'll conclude or if they'll even begin before the election. And turns out this is the one that's going to go first. Just, you know.
Yeah, I was thinking about that like a couple of weeks ago. I was
What
like,
was you smiling about, Carol?
I'm listening to you guys.
You can also contribute. That's an option.
I know.
You're not an audience member.
I know.
You're a host.
I thought Carol was painting her nails. She was looking down. I wasn't sure what she was
I don't know what she's at. She's probably
I'm looking at my
reading.
phone.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm just giving you a hard time. All right, sorry, Ty. Continue. What were you saying?
Yeah, no, but I was just saying, I was like, I remember when this case first came and, you know, it came down and everybody was like, oh, there's way more serious stuff. This case isn't the one. Now this just kind of seemed friendly. You know, they were poo-pooing, dismissing it like this was just some kind of like BS case.
Ty, they was shitting all over Alvin Bragg. They was like, how dare he be the first person to indict a former president of the United States? This is a clown show. It's a fucking ridiculous. And like, there's all this other shit. And then like, it turns out like now you're like, oh, thank God for Alvin Bragg.
Thank God for Alvin Bragg. Thank God this is proceeding, because this might be the only accountability we see before we're pogromed. So this is where we are, you know?
Right. And then
He's not going to win.
Well, yes,
No,
we're hoping.
He's not going to win, Carol, but I'm not really worried about whether or not he's going to win. I'm worried about all the fuckery that the GOP and their right-wing handlers are doing between now and November to ensure that
it seems like what they're doing
nobody
is like
wins.
getting forced out of the House and Senate and
and retiring
and seating seat after seat in the House.
Yeah. Okay. So 2 points there. Like, obviously, it appears as though they have no actual plan to get more votes than Joe Biden in November. So yes, I'm not worried about that. But
that is what's frightening, though.
Exactly.
That's what's frightening. That they are behaving like they don't need the votes, and that is something that Trump has said. And no, the MSM legacy media does not hone in on that. No. MSM mainstream media, they do not hone in on that when he said, "You don't have to go out to vote. We don't need your votes." And they are out here talking like it's in the bag. That should be more frightening than that thought, because that makes me wonder, what the fuck are they up to?
Right.
Unless they control the military, it doesn't fucking matter.
Well, we already know that.
The military, I mean, I know they have Fox News in the bases, but like.
Well, unfortunately, they could, and I don't want to give them any ideas, but enough of these red states could potentially get together and use their National Guard towards some untoward purposes.
Exactly.
Now, obviously, President Biden has the option of federalizing the National Guard, rather. But again, it's like that is contingent on these people actually following legitimate lawful orders, and you can't count on that. And just who knows what the fuck can happen. But yes, Ty, no idea what their plan is, considering like winning the election ain't one of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the other thing is, should Trump eventually end up going on trial before the election in the DC case, he's likely going to be a convicted felon, which will come along with like some enhancements as far as his potential sentence goes. So, the fact that he's going to be a convicted felon, or at least in all likelihood, given the facts of the case in New York, it means that he could actually, for real, see some jail time. Some crazy shit. I hope
so.
Yeah. Are y'all okay over there?
Oh, yeah.
What are you
I just wanted to see what exactly this quote about don't have to vote. That they said apparently added that they should be watching other voters instead. So it's some sort of dog whistle, or maybe he's just already knows he's going to lose so bad that he's just trying to do another fraud thing, get money to the end. At least maybe he can pay off his legal fees before he goes to jail, or he's hoping he'll die first. I don't know.
I no idea. Like, it's difficult to even speculate, because who knows? Like he already tried to overthrow the government once, so there's no telling what the fuck the plan is. But yeah, also Judge Merchan issued a gag order in this case, preventing him from making statements about potential witnesses, and also said that he can't make any statements about the attorneys involved, or the court staff, or the family members of prosecutors, or the lawyers, in order to interfere with the case, given that, we have endless examples of Trump's rhetoric leading to threats against the courts, their staff, prosecutors, literally everyone involved in the legal process when it comes to holding him accountable, except for one motherfucker down there in Florida. And that's the one bitch that's on his side. Don't ever deal with any threats. So yeah. And no one gets gagged more than this dude. Like, it's like a BDSM club, just like the amount of gags this dude is dealing with on a regular basis. I don't know why were you dancing to that? The idea of Trump getting gagged excites you?
I was thinking about a club, but then I guess it's not like...
No, not like the dance club. It's more...
I know what that stands for, but then I started thinking about whether they would really have all those ball gags, or you would just kind of pass the same one around, or like other people take...
Well, if you're Nancy Mace,
around
probably.
The whole time
Well, that's Ty's specialty.
I just have some logistical questions.
About keeping it in her mouth the whole time?
No, ball gags. It's, the club that I apparently shouldn't be, like, was dancing a faux pas at that club? Is it just the way I'm dancing?
All right. So Marjorie Taylor Greene filed a motion to dismiss Speaker Mike Johnson after the passage of multiple appropriation bills with more Democratic votes than Republican votes Friday morning that funded the government and narrowly averted a government shutdown.
Okay. That right there is proof positive that the 2020 election was not stolen, because we still got to see and hear from this bitch.
So you're saying if we had stolen the election, we would have made sure Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't win?
I mean, at least in 2022, right?
Yeah, at the very least.
I mean, in 2020, nobody had any authority to rig we didn't have the means to rig an election, at least in 2022, by that theory,
Yeah, theoretically. I mean, Georgia's still controlled by a Republican governor and state legislature and whatnot. But yeah, it's just, and it is incredible. Like, we don't talk about this enough, not specifically on this podcast, just in general, how originally this bitch's platform was QAnon. We just totally forget that. So it's like she came
and 9/11 truthing and Parkland shooting truthing. Like, that was her whole fucking claim to fame.
Yes.
Period.
And she has quickly evolved into an even far worse person somehow. But yeah, it's just quite funny. Like, if you just you could basically replace Speaker Mike Johnson and insert Speaker Kevin McCarthy, and it's the same shit It's literally the same thing that McCarthy got the boot for. And just because this dude is basically being a responsible adult, at least in this like very narrow,
a responsible representative of citizens of this fucking country.
Yes, doing the bare minimum, paying the fucking bills. Yeah, exactly. and for that, like Marge wants to have him removed. Now, obviously, she doesn't appear to have enough support from other Republicans in order to get this done, but also like the fact that their majority has gotten slimmer and slimmer, like it's not going to take much. Like, dude actually could legitimately lose his job, and not necessarily because of Marjorie Taylor Greene, just because they ain't going to have a majority here if a couple more of the Republicans leave. And again, like, it's a legit possibility that this happens. Like, it could happen. Yes. Like, people are assuming that we're done seeing indictments for whatever reason, which is insane because there are a number of continuing and ongoing state investigations that have been up and running into the fake elector plot and all of its co-conspirators for over a year or up to 2 years now in some cases. We could be seeing other House members get indicted before the election, meaning retirements, especially if some of them are cooperating witnesses and entering guilty pleas and, potentially have resigning negotiated as part of their plea deal. So who knows? But Marjorie Taylor Greene is insane. Like, it would be funny just to watch them hold another, 15, 17, 23 votes to try and find a Speaker of the House. I would enjoy that process.
Now that the government's funded.
Exactly.
Who could they possibly get to fill that position? Because when they were doing after McCarthy was ousted, how we ended up with the people that we had was because nobody wanted that fucking job. The Republican was like hard pass.
Yeah, the normal people were like, hell no. And then like the crazies, like no one wanted to vote for him, like the Jim Jordans. That's how we ended up with some random fucking insurrectionist, Mike Johnson here. Because like he was the only guy who could pull together enough votes. And that was when they had a larger margin for victory than they do now. Well, margin for in the House than they do now.
What I love about the budget being signed, and they were like, Biden signed in the middle of the night, and then I was like, okay, I like that. I don't hate it. That's some Republican fuckery shit when they're like, yes, at 12:03 a.m., Republicans in Florida pushed through this anti-LGBTQ bill where he's just taking a page out of their playbook, and I love it.
Well,
I love that for them.
It's not that. Sorry.
Isn't signing a bipartisan budget good?
Oh yeah,
working to prevent our military from going unpaid or whatever.
Of course, but I love that he did it in the middle of the night.
It's not good if you're a Republican.
And they were who was it Chip Roy or I think it was Chip Roy. He was whining as he's usually whining on one of the shows on Fox. I think it was with the Money Honey, Maria Bartiromo, and then he was like, this terrible bill, and I had to find out. And who was it? Was it UD or somebody else? And was like, okay, so he just admitted he didn't read the motherfucking bill. And so he's like, I just found out when I turned on the news. Like,
That's
and it's
really
like,
funny.
You got one job, motherfucker. That one
how do you
job.
even know what's in it? I mean, of course, look, it's really difficult to go through these bills, but generally what you have is like summaries put together by the staff. And like those go out and you kind of know generally what's in it. But like what's really funny, them complaining about it being like Biden signing it late at night. Well, it took them all fucking day to get the bill passed. That's what took so long.
To get it passed. There was a deadline.
Yeah, like we got to fund the fucking government, guys. That's why he's like, I will sign this as soon as possible. And that's
I don't like seeing tweets from like the Department of Defense that the military is about to go to stop being paid while being on active duty.
Yes, especially when they're complaining about an invasion at our southern border and they're like, but we're not going to continue to fund the military. It's insane. And plus we've got like multiple international conflicts going on currently. We've got, the war in Ukraine, of course, and then this insanity with Netanyahu continuing to fuck up in Gaza. That's a whole nother disaster, which we don't have time to cover on this particular episode of the podcast. But yeah, considering that, and then we almost got Article 5 a couple of weeks ago, because the prime minister of Greece was visiting in Ukraine, and a Russian missile landed less than hundreds of feet from their position. That would have potentially ended up with us getting involved in a war against Russia. So yeah, I don't know. Might want to continue to fund the military just in case.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sick of wondering if the world is going to end. Let's just get it over with. Let's see if their nukes are really, well,
but
we know they're not up to code, but like,
what if I like
how
living?
unstable that means they are.
But what if I want to live?
Fine. Fine, whatever. We'll keep the world.
Well, thank you for your concern about my well-being when it comes to existing. I appreciate that so very much.
You've got such a low bar for so many things these days.
9 years of Trump will do that to one. Did you read anything good there about the Supreme Court hearing this morning on potentially banning mifepristone?
Oh, I mean, what I was reading irresponsibly while I was supposed to be paying attention to you and Ty, seems like from the reporter's accounts, it seems like it is not likely that the justices will even agree that they're standing on this issue from
that whole standing argument was just, it was doing my head in. And I was telling you, dude, Ely Mastal, I really like his breakdowns.
Ellie.
Yeah. Oh, Ellie. But yeah, he was breaking down. He was like, okay, I'm here in the courtroom. So basically, and I love the way he does his commentary. Like, I do like that a lot. Oh, but okay. But back to what you guys were saying, because I had to potty.
Thanks for warning us in advance.
What people, I think what is so unfortunately and dangerously overlooked is that we have 100,000 soldiers stationed in bases in Europe. So while they may not be on the front lines with boots on the ground fighting in Ukraine, like war fighting with them in that aspect, they are at bases stationed all around Europe. And so when Putin is making these threats and he is playing these fucking games and trolling with his little nukes and his missiles and this, and I'm going to do this, their lives are in danger. And it's not just them. Their fucking families are there. My mother was stationed in Germany and we were there with her. So we are talking about hundreds of thousands of American citizens whose lives are in danger. So if Russia and Putin are able to roll over Ukraine, who's next? These countries, there are Americans there. There are families there, citizens there, the same citizens that they want to defund with their bullshit, with not wanting to fund the fucking government. Like my sister-in-law, her husband, he comes back April 3rd. He's been deployed for a year. And he comes back in a week and a half, 2 weeks. And it's like, this shit is real. Like, we don't have just people in war zones. Like, we have our soldiers in places to protect the peace, protect our allies. Like, that's what we're there for. And then here they're having to, well, yeah, if they have fucking Fox running on these bases, then they're seeing every day that their own government does not give a fuck about them, their sacrifice, the danger that they're in, and are willing to have them go without pay, being able to feed their fucking families, being able to, they're already, the ones that are there alone and whatnot are in places like when my mom was in Korea. Korea is one of those places that you can't take your family. So when you deploy, it has to be solo. And so even though Caden was in Germany, he wasn't able to take my sister-in-law and their new baby that was born while he was deployed because he wasn't in like a city. Like we were in a city base. He was like in fucking like isolated. So like really in the trenches and stuff. So that is something that is widely, widely overlooked. And I think we really need to bring more attention to that and get people to wake the fuck up, because anybody that is a military spouse, anybody that is a service member that has been deployed, know what they are facing down and what that feels like when they are, there. But at least then you felt like your country had your fucking back.
Right.
At this point, you're like, what the fuck?
Not to mention, and you're like, yeah, we're not in a war. I mean, we could have been a couple of weeks ago, because as I was saying, like the prime minister of Greece was visiting Ukraine, and a Russian missile exploded like 100 yards away from their position. Yeah. Had there been like a few yards closer, we could have potentially been Article 5. We would have been in a hot war against Russia.
And you know what the crazy part is like, Article 5 has been there for, decades, but it's only been used once. And that was after the 9/11 attacks.
Yeah. So it was invoked by the America.
But it is a slap in the face to our allies who came to our aid at the only time it was invoked. And then to say, fuck you to our allies. Like, it is gross. It is sickening. Hell, this could have been a closing thought, but it really is. But and Putin right now, and
are you frustrated, Ty? You want to get something off your chest, buddy? Chance?
I am. Well, really, the spaghetti sauce that I spilled on me, it was hot. It burned my titties.
That's okay. It just made you more delicious. Okay.
I made some lasagna today for the family and my in-laws, but the crocus, the bombing that happens, or was it the tragedy that happened, I have zero doubt Putin is that fucking, this dude, people forget he blew up a fucking apartment building. And so he is so unhinged, not unhinged like Trump, but unhinged in a diabolical way, because Putin actually has intelligence. Trump is unhinged in a diabolical, I'm an idiot kind of way, but he would kill his own people.
Well, definitely. It's supposedly Putin that engineered the Chechen war in its inception by a false flag attack that, like you said, was a bomb, and that resulted in a significant portion of Chechens dying. I mean, of course, it's been supposedly smoothed over since. Anyway, you're right. You're absolutely right. While Putin is, again, deranged in some ways, but while also possessing a level of intelligence, he does have like some fairly predictable sociological tendencies that tend to be his weakness. He's very emotionally sensitive. Like, he doesn't lash out he doesn't lash out like on camera per se or anything, but he always holds these grudges, and people who one up him, he incessantly feels the need to retaliate against. Prigozhin, for instance, after marching his troops right outside of Moscow, and we were all saying, of course, like after that event, dude better watch his back and stay away from windows, and of course he ended up dead. And that's just one example of many.
That's why I was laughing. You're like, he always has to one up them. I'm like, oh, that's what, like, you make joke at me and I kill you.
All right.
I guess Prigozhin was not making joke.
Okay, I guess in that case, I should probably stay away from windows after all of my comments about Vladimir Putin.
Hey, he can get you. Remember, he fucking poisoned those people in London. He got Navalny when he got him the first time with that poison in Germany, and he killed that motherfucker in Spain. So, and when Sarah was down in Mexico City, which, I go to a lot, and their embassy, when she was doing a tour of their embassy, and she's like, it's 7 city blocks, and they have 3 Russian TV stations serving up propaganda in Mexico City right now. And what the DOJ said, if I'm not mistaken, it was the DOJ, was that there are more Russian spies out of that embassy in Mexico City. And then when you couple that with Univision going full fucking MAGA, shutting off, but like all of that shit. So I'm like, damn, that was gonna be my safe haven, and now I'm like, fuck, like I can't, like
yes,
I even go to Mexico now.
Is not an effective escape plan should things go horribly wrong in November. Nope. And of course, in my case, my balcony's pretty low, so I'm not too concerned about that. And also, I like to make my own tea.
I have a bottom floor apartment, so I'm only going about 6 inches. That's it.
well, Ty, we all know 6 inches isn't enough for you.
Oh, shut up.